Andy, what stood out to you about Devonte Ross so far this spring?
Really quick and twitchy. I think the biggest thing is that our expectation for him and Kyron as a staff coming in as a new guy was to not have entry-level expectations in terms of understanding what we're doing offensively in the playbook, and those guys have done a great job catching themselves up. And they're obviously older, and so with that comes some understanding already because they got like real game reps in college football already. But I've been really pleased with both him and Kyron in their acceleration of picking up what we're trying to do mentally.
When you're kind of crafting that year two offense, what about Devonte specifically makes him kind of an intriguing piece for you?
Well, he's really got some elite change of direction. You know what I mean? As a player, he can go from his ability to accelerate and decelerate is pretty special and unique, and that shows up on film. And back, when we were first recruiting him and evaluating him, and that's showed up here on the practice field.
And how about Kyron?
Kyron, same thing. Elite ball skills. Do you know what I mean? Right. Which was all over tape. He's such a big and physical receiver, and in this league, that's so necessary. Right. With the aggressive secondaries that we play, he's done a fantastic job of being that physical person. And again, super impressed with his football acumen.
How has the addition of Jim Knowles helped you?
Well, you have somebody that you've coached against, and it's always just nice to bounce ideas and thoughts off of. And, what do you do here? What caused you problems? What didn't you worry about that we made a bigger deal? Things of that nature. So just some of the general professional development things, but you have somebody in-house that's willing to just give you an unfiltered evaluation of their preparation for you and vice versa.
And with all the returning guys you have on the offensive line, the running backs, the quarterback, what's the next step for your running game, the team's running game, after the way you guys were able to finish last year?
Well, to be dominant, right? We have experience coming back on the offensive line. We're excited about it. We got two great running backs. I think both 1,000-yard rushers, right?
Yep.
Right. So you got two guys with 1,000-yard rushers. You got a quarterback who looks as mobile as he had since I've been here in the 16, 17 months, whatever it is. So he'll be able to keep people honest, and you have an elite group of tight ends right now that I'm super excited about. I don't know we're going to talk about missing Ty Warren, and we do and we will, but I'm super Cleo Dinkins, who was probably the most unheralded player on our offense last year. You know what I mean? And then you got Rapp and Luke. You know what I mean? That'll come back. So you have a box that's going to be super mature and good, and you want to win championships, you got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to throw the football but you have to be able to run the football.
From an installation standpoint, how different has this year looked than last year?
Well, probably a lot different because, it's year two for so many of the guys. And so what our day one installation was, we were at 400 level already day one. Yeah, but we should be. We played a 16-game season, you have all the growth that occurs when you play in games throughout the course of a year. And it was, we had super high expectations about what was being installed, and they've handled it. So it's about evolving as an offense. It's about what's next for each of those players. What does a little more look like for Drew? What does a little more look like for Cleo Dinkins and Nick Dawkins and all those guys, right? So all these guys that we talk about returning, what is a little more? What's the next evolution for them that we can continue to showcase and build around what they're really, really good at, but then continue to improve on things, where they need to improve. Right.
Didn't mean to put you off. Danny O'Brien talked a couple weeks ago about the offensive evolution being generally what you guys did well last year and then playing off of those things.
Yeah.
So I guess in your mind, what were the strengths of the team last year, and where are some of those areas that you think you can improve or that you're interested in maybe discovering more for the offense?
It's hard to really get into the details of that. It probably starts with personnel, correct? So we just spent some time talking about the box, and then we asked about, the receiver core, and specifically with Kyron and Devonte. What does that look like for them to grow, and what do they need to do? I think the biggest and most important thing is when you're trying to evolve as an offense is, have you set a good set of parameters? Have you your base offense, if you will, is your set of parameters as an offense tight enough, but still wide enough that we can grow, we can expand, and we can ask our players to evolve and do maybe just a little bit more. If we can run power, can we run another run scheme that complements power, or can we run a play action pass that complements power, or a screen on the backside of it, whatever it is. So those little wrinkles that are going to protect your base, plays that you're doing really, really well, how much of that can that expand and evolve? And of course, being able to call those and run those is totally predicated on how well you could run the said power play. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's hard to get into the specifics, but that's maybe an example I would give you of what that could look like and how that stuff grows with experience.
Can you address the development of Grunk and Jackson throughout the spring? Where have they kind of made strides?
They're understanding what we're doing, right? And we've intentionally put a lot of stress on those guys with the situations that we're in. There's a lot of obvious situations in passing the ball and expecting them to go out there and handle that stress of running those situations when things are a little more predictable, and the ebbs and flows that come with that throughout the spring. But both those guys, they're understanding what we're doing, their ability to get us lined up and get us in the right play and the protection, all those sort of things. I think they've done an awesome job.
And how important is the summer for them as well, going into camp after? You're almost done with spring ball here.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, right, for them to keep building rhythms and relationships with the receivers and trust and timing and the tight ends and the backs, and the time that we get to spend in the off season with those guys during the whatever I think is 1 or 2 hours a week that you get to be out there with them is a huge deal.
How does the process for you of I know you've mentioned year 2 kind of knowing the personnel better and kind of understanding everything at a little bit deeper level. What's the process for you of then crafting, the next iteration, the game plan, the ideas, and all those things in the offense that that you're understanding the personnel better to then accentuate some of those strengths?
Yeah. So what we have to do is it's 15 practices, which is awesome, right? They're building a body of work. But really, when you start getting into game playing stuff, you need to see fall camp and you need to see the evolution. So there's a lot of growth that's going to happen from now. Us just finishing practice 13 to when we kick off. There's a lot of practices, there's a lot of summer, there's a lot of lifting, and there's a lot of training. There's a lot that can occur. So you need to see that before you really can sit there and thoroughly do that. Again, it goes back to a little bit about what I said before about, okay, what are the parameters? Are they wide enough but tight enough that we could, you spend time in the summer and now about kind of evaluating, the season, the opponents, and what you think you're going to see to make sure that you're not getting ambushed by anything schematically that you feel like you got to, prepare for, which you can spend time in the summer and that stuff. So it's all of that together, but you really need to get into and through fall camp before you can really start saying, here's exactly what we should do with this guy. Because every player, and the coaches, we got to be careful, because sometimes as coaches, you can pigeonhole guys and they can get siloed and this is what they are and that's it. When reality is every player, no matter how old or young, deserves and will improve in this program. And so it's kind of like, what does that look like when we play a game, and whatever our first game is, I don't even know. But August, September, whatever date it is.
What has Stan brought to the program?
Coach Drayton, just a soup form. First of all, very much a pro mentality.
Right.
And obviously, having coached in the NFL, he's been coaching running backs for a long, long time. I have been super impressed with how he has developed a relationship with Nick and Fat, and he is exactly what those two guys need to take the next step. So you got somebody who can be in the room and say, both those guys have professional football aspirations, and they should, and they will. But you have somebody who's coached that level, been at that level, coached some really impressive guys to get to that level that can sit there and say, this is what this is what going from really good to great looks like. For you. Mm-hmm. So he brought that for them personally, but then he's also, he's been a head coach before, right? He's been in a lot of programs. He's won national titles before as a football coach, and so at least I think he has. Pretty sure he has. But anyway, he's brought the ideas that come with that, the experiences of being in those rooms, and he's been a great guy to collaborate with.
How is Javin? What has Javin shown you this spring in terms of his ability to contribute and what he's done?
I have just been so impressed with his athleticism, this spring, and the way he can move, and when he just jumps off the ball and attacks people in the run game, it can be really, really, really impressive. I wasn't here when they recruited him out of high school, but just I know he was an unbelievable, I think, a shot putter disc shot, and just that power that's necessary that shows up in that sport, but you can see that on the field, so I've been really impressed with that.
How much of a weapon is that for an offensive line if you've got enough of those guys?
Powerful dudes?
With the explosiveness and the movement ability.
Oh, it's a huge deal. Yeah, like the thing that I'm most excited about with our offensive line, it's a credit to Coach Stroud, Coach Q, and Sticks, but like how they have like really been athletic this spring. Like we are like jumping off the ball. Like we look like a really athletic offensive line, but we're not small. You know what I mean? Like we got some big boys that can run and they're powerful. So it's a huge deal. It's a big deal. I've said this. I think I've said this publicly before, but I'd say it to our offense. We'll go as far as our offensive line will take us as a football program, right? And that's probably true of every program. People don't want to talk about that because we want to talk about quarterbacks and skill players. But the reality is every championship team, they got great line play on both sides of the ball.
Two more guys.
What do you see as the upside for Kritza?
Well, the fact that he's been here, you know what I'm saying, this spring, like most of us at his age, we're thinking about going to prom. You know what I mean? If you're, right? If you're me, you're begging somebody to try to go to prom with you.
A good-looking guy like you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Yes, I had so many options. That's funny. I'm thinking about my high school prom day. It's been a long time. But
at least you didn't get asked.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He has grown, right? And like the best thing about our staffing model here is that we have Danny, who is quarterback coach. You got Trace McSorley, who everyone knows, and you have those two guys who are mentoring everyone in that room, including him. And so, what 1% better for Beckham Kritza looks like is a lot different than 1% better for Drew.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you have Danny and Trace to help those guys with that growth is impressive, and it's a big deal for our staff. And he has improved every practice. You know what I mean? And at first, like a lot of young guys, they're just swimming, especially at that position. And he's come in right away, and he's been able to, by practice 13, going to the 14 on Friday. I mean, he still has a really good understanding where he's at.
Can you build, and this is kind of a philosophical question, can you build an offense explosive enough to reach the highest levels with the focus being passing game with running backs and tight ends? Is there a path towards what you want to be with, kind of that being the main focus of the offense? Yeah,
so kind of what you're asking is what kind of football team do you have if your best players are O-linemen, tight ends, and running backs, right? And I don't know that is decided yet, you know what I'm saying? But as long as you got really good players, you got a chance. And we have really good players. And, I'm excited about where the growth of our receiver room is. And we believe in, like, ball distribution has to happen. You have to have some balance. And what we're doing, not just run and pass, but balance about who's getting touches and how they're getting those touches. But the answer is you want to feel good about the depth at every position. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things that we did, we spent a lot of time studying, in the last decade, who has been in the championship game, who's been in the college football playoffs, who's touching the ball. Right? How many times are running backs touching the ball? How many times are receivers? How many times are tight ends and quarterbacks and all that stuff? And the reality is there's a lot of people that have won a lot of games with a total spectrum of who's been touching the ball a lot. Some teams got primary targets were all running backs. Like I think one year, one of the teams was literally their top three people who touched were all running backs. And then one year, it was two of the top three were three receivers. You know what I'm saying? And so like you can win with anything as long as you got championship level habits and championship level processes, right?
Thanks, Andy.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Appreciate you.